So Black Ops 3 is the next Call of Duty on our list of CODs to go through and give a full retrospective critical review on it. I've been going through all of them from COD 4, and now we're on to Black Ops 3. I'm going to try to continue going through, maybe more often because I've been taking my time on these, because I have to do a lot in kind of preparation for them. I have to go through each of the COD's campaigns, replay the campaign, go through the multiplayer, play a lot of multiplayer, play a lot of the co-op modes, do a lot of the Easter eggs and zombies, all that good stuff. So it does take a good long while to actually refresh my memory on these games a little bit, and so I can give a fair and honest full critical review. So of course, if you want to see how my opinions on every single Call of Duty in like a shorter and condensed way, go check out my ranking of all 13 COD games. I did that about a month ago. Go check that out. That has more condensed reviews of each COD in a ranked order, of course. But for these videos, these are going to be a little more in-depth. We're going to talk more about the game, way more than I did in that video, and see what we can go through. So Black Ops 3 is incredible. Yeah, it's incredible. This game's got a lot of mixed opinions. It really depends on what kind of a player you are. Usually the campaign players who prefer campaign over everything else in the game tend to not like this game that much. The players who kind of love zombies more than anything else, and they prefer zombies over any other mode, absolutely love this game. And the guys who prefer multiplayer, they're usually like, yeah, I like it, it's not my favorite, but it's definitely pretty good. That's honestly how this game usually is when it comes to the community. For my sake, I'm kind of a multiplayer and zombies guy, kind of half and half. So this game was very, very favorable for me. I do love campaigns, and I have a lot to say about the campaign in this one. Yes, I know it's not very good, but we'll talk about that when we get into that section of the video. But of course, I don't think that ruined the whole game. I don't think it made it any less incredible than it is. Maybe just a little bit less incredible. I still think the multiplayer in zombies is so fantastic that it just completely made up for a lack of an incredible campaign. But that doesn't mean I think the campaign is bad necessarily. I still do think this campaign is actually kind of underrated, and I'm going to talk about that. So let's get into the campaign section of this video. So Black Ops 3's campaign gets the most hate in the entire franchise out of any campaign we've ever seen before. And although I agree it's probably one of the worst campaigns we've ever had, I don't think it's nearly as bad as what everyone says. I kind of was on the same page as everyone else. I thought it was pretty trash after I first played it back in 2015 when it first came out, but I recently replayed it for the first time since then. And since it's 5 years later, you know, I've grown up a little bit, I've gained a new appreciation for all sorts of movies over time. I gained a new appreciation for this game. It was much better than I originally remembered back in 2015. Of course, I still didn't think it was that great. I still think there's a lot of flaws that the campaign has, but it doesn't mean it's garbage or trash or deserving to be hated on as much as it is. I think it has a solid story. It's just not executed in the best possible way, which could have to do with a lot of different developmental issues that Treyarch had during this time because of Activision scrapping projects and all that crap that they love to do. I think the story was really confusing. It was, but it doesn't make it bad. I don't see why people act like confusing automatically means bad. I see people doing that for a lot of things. They don't understand it, so they say it must be shit. I don't get it, so I guess it's crap. That's not a fair way to rank movies at all. You have to look at it and actually try to analyze it and try to figure it out. And I watched a couple videos to try to help me figure it out, because even I couldn't figure it out for myself. And some of the explanation videos definitely help a lot to make me understand the story a little bit clearer, and to the point where I was actually like, you know what, that's kind of brilliant. Now, I'm not saying that confusing automatically makes something good. No, of course not. That's not the case at all. But what I'm saying is confusing doesn't automatically make it bad either. That's important to note, because it's not that bad. The story is actually pretty good. It goes in depth about all this psychological warfare with the technology and how they're like, it's overtaking humans basically. Remember that Ember teaser trailer that we got back in April of 2015 before the actual reveal trailer? That trailer hyped up this storyline a lot. Another major complaint I hear, which I kind of agree with this point, but not completely, the people say that it has no connections to the original Black Ops games. That's false. It does have connections, it's just not directly correlated. It's not really a sequel to Black Ops 2. It's more like a spin-off. I think that's a good way to see it. Like, it still took place within the Black Ops universe. I mean, there was a lot of connective tissue that had to do with, they mentioned Menendez, they mentioned Nova 6, it's still within the same universe, it's just much further in the future. The reason why they didn't continue with the same characters is because Black Ops 2 ended off with that really kind of open-ended storyline where there's like a million different things that could have happened. So how are you going to continue that story right after that? And a lot of those characters would be dead in the future. I mean, do we want to play as another one of Mason's kids? Like, it's just, no, we didn't need that. They wanted to tell a different story, and I thought they told a pretty interesting story, and they were really doing some interesting world building with this universe as well. I kind of wish the specialists were inputted into the story in some way, shape, or form. They really weren't, which was kind of unfortunate. They weren't really introduced until Black Ops 4's like semi-campaign thingy, which wasn't really a campaign, but you get the idea. I thought a couple of the missions were pretty fun. There's really good soundtracks as well, and the Zombies campaign, although being kind of underwhelming, it was still a cool addition. I mean, it didn't really take much away from the game. It was just there, and it was something fun to mess around with like once or twice, so I didn't really complain about it. I really don't see the need to complain about it. But then come the negatives, and I do think the negatives, there's a decent amount of them within this campaign. Look, I understand how I was saying before that being confusing isn't bad, but I do think that this game did have trouble explaining a lot of the stories, because you do have to do a lot of extra work just to understand it, and I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. I'm okay with, you know, confusing in-depth stories. It's just you shouldn't make it to the point where I need to look up videos to understand it. I agree with that statement. I just don't think it's bad because it's confusing. It's just bad because they don't explain the confusing factors good enough to the audience. But I do appreciate there's not much exposition in this game. They're not really spoon-feeding you information. A lot of it you kind of have to just think about it on your own and realize, oh, that's what that means, or oh, that makes sense. You know, they don't just tell you straight up, which I appreciate. I appreciate the type of storytelling. The main character is literally just a player. There's no personality to the main character. You can be male or female, and I'm okay with them letting you choose between two different characters, but that takes away the point of personality and who you're playing as. I mean, they did this in a few other campaigns. In Ghosts, the main character didn't speak one goddamn word the whole entire campaign. So I'm sitting here like, there's no personality to who you're playing as. They need to give the main character personality, but in this game they really didn't. He literally doesn't even have a name. That's kind of stupid. But the other characters I thought were okay. They weren't great. They weren't very iconic or memorable, but they had a couple of good ones. Hendrix was alright. You know, Zane was fine. You had a couple, or not Zane, Kane, my bad. Yeah, I can't even remember the names 100% because they're not that memorable, but they were still fine. And maybe that's just because I didn't play this campaign that many times, and I know many others didn't. That's important to note. Like, literally 5% of players actually completed this campaign, which goes to show that when people say this is one of the worst campaigns, I feel like the majority of them haven't even finished the damn thing, which is kind of ridiculous. I think you need to finish it before you're going to get a valid opinion. That's like going halfway through a movie and saying, yeah, this movie's shit, not seeing it to the end. You know what I mean? There's a lot of movies that if you don't see it to the end, obviously it's not going to be good. You have to understand the full picture to really appreciate something, and I feel like people just didn't give this game a chance, and that's why it's so hated upon. I gave it a chance. I still don't think it's amazing or anything, talking about the campaign, but it's still not that bad. It is a little clunky. There's a lot of glitches between some of the modes and some of the levels in campaigns. A lot of glitches that just tend to happen. The hit markers are kind of stupid for a campaign. I don't think campaigns should have hit markers. I wish there's probably an option to turn it off. I don't freaking know. There might be, but I don't think that should be a thing in campaign. I feel like campaign should make you feel like you're more in there rather than like you're playing a video game. Some of the acting is pretty rough. You can tell that the voice acting, they were filming it in separate rooms. Like, they weren't saying the dialogue to each other. They were rather just reading off the lines, and then other people were reading off their own lines, and then they just edit them together. You can tell because a lot of the tones were really off, and it didn't feel like it was, you know, going together nicely, which was kind of unfortunate. We had a couple cool missions though, like the World War II mission was really awesome, and I thought Corvus, the whole idea of him going into people's minds and making them do these things was pretty interesting as well. And I think my final verdict on this game is that it's really not terrible. It's not, but it's definitely not nearly one of the better campaigns ever. It's not even close to being one of the better campaigns. So originally I was gonna give my final verdict on campaign a 12 out of 20, which is a 60%, but then I realized there's bonus modes in this game. Now, I didn't really want to connect bonus modes to its own separate category, and I didn't want to put bonus modes into zombies or multiplayer, so I decided I would add an extra point to campaign, making it a 13 out of 20, because of the fact that these 3 bonus modes are pretty freaking fun, and I didn't know where else to put the point, so I might as well put that 1 extra point there. I decided the point had to go somewhere, so it's gonna go to the campaign pretty much. It's gonna go in that category. And the bonus modes, of course, are Dead Ops Arcade 2, Nightmare Mode, as well as Free Run, which I'm not gonna put those in any other place. It just didn't feel right to do that. But Nightmare Mode, like I said, I already mentioned before, was an interesting take, but it really didn't take anything away from the game either, so it was just an interesting take on the campaign story, you know what I mean? And they did it in a different way. Free Run was fun for like a week or so, but I still appreciated them having it. It was nice to practice, your different abilities in Free Run. And Dead Ops Arcade 2 was pretty freaking amazing, honestly. This is one of my favorite parts in this entire game. I don't know what it is. I mean, I didn't love Dead Ops Arcade 1 that much in Black Ops 1, but for some reason in this game, it is a ton of fun. It's literally, it's really hard, but it's a lot of fun. So, yeah. Campaign as a whole is going to get a 13 out of 20, of course including the bonus modes as well. So that is the campaign in Call of Duty Black Ops 3. I think it's underrated, but it's definitely one of the worst in this franchise regardless. So we've now gotten to the good stuff, the stuff in this game where it makes it incredible. I mean, the multiplayer is just phenomenal. One of my favorite multiplayers of all time within the Call of Duty franchise. So let's go through all the reasons as to why I love it. Just like Black Ops 2, there's not many negatives that I really have. There's maybe 3 negatives I can think of, and I'll mention those after we go over the positives, because there's a lot of positives to go through. Starting off with the fact that this game is smooth as butter, man. This is one of the smoothest COD experiences I've ever played. From the hit detection to the movement speed to just the fluidity of it. It feels so like good when you're just running around the map. You're boost jumping, you're sliding. Everything is smooth. I never get that feel of clunkiness where I'm like, I shouldn't have died there because this game like kind of bugged me out a little bit. Like, yeah, you get some lag every now and then when you get into a bad lobby, but that's very uncommon in this game. It's just the majority of my experiences within Black Ops 3, the majority of most people's experiences from what I've seen and heard, it's that this game is smooth. It feels so good. I don't know if it has to do with the sound design as well. That also sounds really pleasing to make it feel like it's smooth, but I feel like it's just the movements, speed, and everything like that. Like, you take the boost jumping from Advanced Warfare, compare that to the boost jumping in this game, it's night and day difference, man. I mean, the boost jumping in this game was so improved upon to just how it works with the map design. It's perfect. Where the wall running spots are, where you can boost jump, outside of the map and then go back in the map so you don't die. The swimming spots, how smooth it is to swim. You could tell this is a well-polished, well-made game. It also looks really good. It's one of the best-looking CODs of all time, even to this date. I mean, I kid you not, I think to this date, the art style and how this game looks is gorgeous. The camos, amazing. Some amazing looking camos we have. I mean, the Dark Matter camo is probably my favorite camo in COD history. It just looks godly, and there's so many more awesome DLC camos which you can get for free, of course, out of supply drops, but they're still free at the end of the day. And we'll go into supply drops later. There's a lot of negatives that I have to say about those, but we'll get to that a little bit later. The streaks are really, really good and really, really fun. That's important to me. I feel like kill streaks in all CODs should be fun and good, and in this game they are both of those. You have stuff like the Cerberus, the Mothership, the Hater, the Wrath, the Rapes, all these different things that really, really do just, they dominate. I mean, I dominate lobbies in this game when I get these streaks because that's how powerful they are. They go off, they go ham, which is what they should do. That's what they did in Modern Warfare 2, that's what they did in Black Ops 2, and I'm really glad that this game followed suit with that and made them really, really useful. And of course, there's score streaks, which is how they should be in my opinion, because when you play objective modes, you're not, unfairly, you don't have people going around not playing the objective, or you're not unfairly not getting points you should be getting for actually being a team player and playing the objective. So that's awesome. Now, the maps there are not really that many bad maps. I mean, there's not that many like amazing, iconic, insanely incredible maps. You have a few like Combine, Stronghold, some returning ones which are iconic like Nuketown. Raid came back as a DLC map, stuff like that. Standoff came back as a DLC map, stuff. They have really good maps. I just don't think of any bad maps. You know, there's not many that I would consider to be god awful. There's a few DLC ones, specifically, I don't remember the name of it, but I remember it being really, really big with those giant mechs. That map was terrible. But on disc, like the launch maps, I mean, maybe Havoc wasn't that great, but the rest of them, they play well, especially with the movement system, and I don't find many people not really enjoying them because of how smooth they are with the movement system and how fast-paced they are. There's not a lot of camping places, there's not a lot of places for you to cheese the game. It's just very fluid. People play the objective. You got game modes like Safeguard and Domination in this game that are really, really enjoyable. They're really, really fast. I mean, you get like 50+ kill gameplays almost every game in this, if you're good at the game, of course. The weapon customization is amazing. How like just changing what attachments you have completely changes the look of your gun. This was the first COD to really make your attachments feel really, really useful, and you can get up to 6 of them, which is insane. That was the most at this point that we can put onto any gun, and of course you have to give up some of your creative class slots, but that was the whole point of having a pick 10 system, so you can pick and choose. You want more attachments for less perks, you want more perks for less attachments, and I like those decisions that you can get with the pick 10 in this game, which I really appreciated. The perk balance was great as well. You had plenty of useful perks that you can switch between, and they made sense. I mean, sometimes you might want Cold-Blooded if there's streaks. Sometimes you might want Sixth Sense if you're more of a guy who likes to look at the minimap often. Or you might want stuff that, you know, helps you whip up your gun faster if you're more of an SMG user or shotgun user. They have perks that do that, and they're really, really useful to switch around. You don't have to keep the same perk design like you would in most CODs, or at least in my eyes. I usually keep the same perk loadouts for the newest Modern Warfare. I never really change those. I run EOD, Ghost, and usually the third one is, I don't even remember, but it's whatever the one I use for the third one. That's pretty much what it is. I don't really switch them around. In this game, I feel like I'm switching around every single class depending on what map I'm on, depending on what gun I'm using, depending on how I'm feeling that day, depending on what I'm trying to do, depending on the mode. There's so many different combinations of perks that I use in this game because they're all really well balanced. That is important to me. This game itself just has good balance. Even the weapons are really balanced. Every gun in this game is pretty good. There's not many shit guns in this game. You have a few stinkers, but you can make them good with the right attachments. So it's not like you have any guns that are just completely worthless in any situation, and that is true. I mean, maybe there's a few DLC guns that are really, really shitty, but for the most part, that's not that big of a deal. Sniping in this game, now for a sniper it might be kind of frustrating, but I really appreciate that the snipers aren't that good in this game. You actually need to have skill because they don't have aim assist. I'm not very good at sniping in this game. I'm bad at it. I'm fine with that though, because I'm not a big sniper guy. Now I'm gonna be unbiased here. I'm not gonna, you know, try to make this seem like it's a great thing, because it might not be good for some people, but in terms of the fact that I think snipers just should take more skill to use, I think that's more fair because of how powerful they are. If they're one-shot kill weapons, they should take more skill to use. So I do think that in terms of this game itself, it is a good thing that snipers are not as easy to use as they might be in something like Black Ops 2. So I do appreciate how snipers work in this game. It makes for the game to be overall just more enjoyable. You're not dying by snipers every 2 seconds, you know what I mean? I really appreciate how well this game flowed in most game modes. I never felt like I was, you know, wasting my time. I was sitting around a map looking for the enemies for 3 years. I never really feel like that. The custom games were awesome. There were so many great custom lobbies you can do within custom games because of how many options they gave you. It's amazing the amount of options. Now we got to get into some negatives, because there's gonna be negatives, of course, with any COD. And there's only a few I can think of. So I did say that the maps were pretty great, but I do have a negative about them. Some of them, especially some of the DLC ones, feel way too similar to one another, like almost like the same cookie cutter maps. Now, they're not bad maps by any means. They're just so similar to one another that we didn't feel like we got much variety in map design. And then, of course, they didn't continue what Advanced Warfare and Ghost did with the awesome map-changing events. They kind of just dropped that, which I thought was kind of unfortunate. I wanted to see that be expanded upon. They kind of just said, screw that. The supply drop only weapons were really stupid. We all know that, but like I said, I don't hold that against Treyarch. I more so hold that against Activision, but it's still a negative about this game that I need to point out. I do think that the game did a good job of introducing things like the triple play contract that you can do by just getting 100 wins, so I appreciate that. Help you get a few guns, but there's still so many guns in the game that you can't earn unless you get lucky. I don't mind having supply drops. That's not the issue. The issue is not the supply drops themselves. When they were cosmetic only, it worked. I was fine with that. You can earn a lot of cool camos, cool gear pieces, whatever, from supply drops. I think that was fun. Even the melee weapons, I thought that was fun. But when you started adding stat-changing weapons in them, it started becoming unfair and kind of dumb. And I didn't appreciate that system at all, but it didn't ruin the game. I don't know why people, whenever they tell me Black Ops 3 sucks, I'm like, why? And they say because there's guns and supply drops. And I'm like, that's your only reason? You hate a whole game because of that? Really? No, that's not fair. And boost jumping, I'm not going to put that as a negative because I personally liked it. I was fine with the boost jumping. I don't want it for every COD, obviously. I'm glad we're back to boots on the ground. But for this game's sake, I thought it was fine, especially because it was different than Advanced Warfare. I understand that people who just don't like the boost jumping or will not like this game likely, but I appreciated it, and I thought it made for more fast-paced gameplay, which ended up being, you know, more enjoyable to me. Specialists, yeah, they're hit or miss for me. Sometimes they piss me off, and then sometimes they're fun. I like how they have these cool backstories, and I like how they feel so different from one another, and I like how some of their abilities, you know, you don't earn them a million times in the game. You only earn them every now and then. It is unfortunate to die by somebody by a war machine when you're on a streak and he's a noob and he gets it because you just get it, but everyone gets it, and you get them quicker for being better at the game, so I felt like it worked. I don't want to see them again, but I didn't mind them in this game, is what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to give this multiplayer a 38 out of 40. 30 goddamn 8 out of 40. I know that is an incredibly high score, but I mean, that's just how much I like it, man. It is one of those multiplayer experiences that I can play every day and not get bored of it. There's so much to do as well. There's a lot of different challenges and contracts you can work for to get more crypto keys. And there's the cool little gear pieces, the gold gear pieces you can get for all the different specialists. Black Ops 3, pretty solid. Let's move on to the zombies mode. So zombies is where I think the best part of this game is, and honestly I think zombies in BO3 is one of the best modes in COD history. Like if we take every mode, campaign, multiplayer, zombies, and we kind of separate them, I think the zombies from Black Ops 3 is some of the best stuff from COD history, in the gameplay, in the story, in the innovation, in the atmosphere, in the music. Everything is so good in BO3 zombies. It is mind-boggling. Now I'm going to go over all the pros. There's a few cons, just like multiplayer. You got a few cons, but they're very minute cons. They're not that serious. But first of all, I just think this experience is just so epic. I mean, from Shadows of Evil to Der Eisen to Zetsubo to Garad to Revelations, all 5 of those maps are so, they're honestly all really good. None of those maps I think deserve to be titled bad or any less than like even just average. They're all above average maps. I think they're all actually above good maps. But then of course you have the 8 Zombies Chronicles maps and the Giant. So you have like a total of 14 maps in this game. Now I'm not really including like custom zombies when I'm talking about zombies here because only PC players can experience that, but this something I just gotta mention though. You do have PC custom zombies, which literally takes this experience to a whole nother level when you have millions of custom maps that you can play whenever the hell you want, and they're easy to download through the Steam Workshop. So that just pushes Black Ops 3 up even higher, but I'm just gonna try to keep that out of this review just because not everyone can experience that, since not everyone has a PC. This is mainly for what everyone can experience, which is of course the game itself, which even the game itself is just really damn good where it's at. The Easter eggs in all of these maps are some of the most enjoyable Easter eggs that we've ever had. They're really in-depth, they're fun, and they're replayable. Specifically, Der Eisendrock's Easter egg. This is the first game to really go deep with the boss fights. I mean, you had a boss fight in like Exo Zombies, but this is the first game that really pushed boss fights to the next level, and they were fun. They were like Destiny raids for the first time, and we get to speedrun them, see who can complete these Easter eggs faster. There's so many awesome challenges that were made by the community for these different Easter eggs. You had stuff like Easter eggs for charity going on, and now we got like zombies for charity and all these different events that happen based off of these Easter eggs. I mean, no one really wanted to speedrun BO2 Easter eggs because a lot of them weren't really that fun. I think Origins was the only one that people actually enjoyed speedrunning, but even that, it got kind of tedious after a while because they're really long quests. But the quests in this game are not too short, and they're not too long. They're just perfect. You can do them within like an hour, relatively. Some of them are even shorter. Some of them might be just a little bit longer. But they're really, really fun and replayable. And a lot of them are solo-friendly Easter eggs. Like, Horizon is very, very solo-friendly. I do this Easter egg like once a month at this point. I just continuously do it because it's so much fun. And I had a really good time speedrunning it a couple of months back for Zombies Community Showdown. And a lot of these maps just have that replay value behind it. The graphics are really good, just like they are in multiplayer. I think it's one of the best looking zombies to date. The mechanics just feel really smooth, just like multiplayer. Everything feels smooth. The way you train zombies, it's smooth. The hit detection on the zombies, how they hit you. You don't feel like you get into many bullshit situations that often. All the maps have these awesome specialist weapons unique to each map that you can get via some sort of a challenge. The wonder weapons on each map are very, very awesome. I mean, you got like the bows, the Apothecon Servant, the KT4, the Reagan Mark III, all really fun wonder weapons to mess around with that all are not that difficult to get on each map, and they have, most of them have some sort of upgrade quest, some of them don't, some of them do. The Pack-a-Punch, how to get them on all these maps isn't that difficult. The best thing I think I gotta say about these maps is how different they feel from one another. I mean, you have Shadows of Evil, which is this early 1900s, like, jazzy sort of an age in like some nice town that's really colorful and beautiful. That's a cool setting. Then you have Dreisenjoch, which is this like World War II castle. Then you have Zetsubo, which is this Japanese island. And then you have Garad, which is literally in Stalingrad. And I liked how each of these maps fit the specific character that, went with the story. Like you had the Giant was for Richthofen, Dreisen was for Dempsey, you had Zetsubo for Takio, and you had Garad for Nikolai, and then Revelations brings it all together by bringing past maps into a big experience that felt really epic, even if the map itself the ending didn't feel like an epic ending, even if it kind of was it was an epic location, that's what I'm trying to say. And then of course you had the 9 remakes, which were all remasters really, which were all really, really fantastic. I say pretty good versions of the original. They weren't exactly what I wanted. I either wanted them to be exactly like the original or very, very different. They kind of did in between. They're a little different, but they weren't too different, which I guess works. I guess it's not that big of a deal. I just was expecting something a little different. My expectations don't determine whether or not it's good or bad, so I still think it was fine the way it was. The soundtracks throughout this entire game are freaking incredible. Have had no problems with the soundtracks in most COD games, so I always usually say it's a positive. Now, the only negatives I can think of for this game, we have the gumball system. I didn't hate, but I didn't love either because I felt like you can get all these insane gobblegums that make it way too easy for many people. I didn't have a problem with them at first, but once they started allowing you to buy them, everyone kept getting these perkaholics, and then you see YouTubers doing Easter eggs in every game that had a perkaholic. I liked the classic gumball only strategies when you try to speedrun just the classics, because when you start adding the megas in, it just makes it so stupid. You're like, you can do all these different exploits with them that make it just way too easy, and I really didn't like that at all. And the fact that they didn't add any new perks other than Widow's Wine was kind of stupid. I mean, we had like the same exact perks on every map. It kind of got annoying. And I think they didn't do enough with the DLC guns. There were so many awesome DLC guns and supply drops in this game. Why not add them to more maps? They literally only added a few. The PPSH was awesome. The FFAR was awesome. The HG40 was awesome. But there was so much more they could have done with a lot of the other ones. Like, how come we didn't see like that? Remember that pizza launcher gun? Like that disc launcher multiplayer? Why couldn't we see that in Zombies? I don't get that. They could have added them in. That would have been really awesome. But everything else is really great. Those are the only negatives I can really think of. A few missed opportunities, really, but that's all I can think of. As a whole, this Zombies is the best Zombies experience we've ever had, and it's gonna go down in history as I hope BO5 can beat it. I hope it can, but I don't know. It's gonna be difficult. So I'm gonna give BO3 Zombies a 39 out of 40. That is a really good score but it's deserving of it. Trust me, this mode is great. The people who usually don't like it are the people who just don't like complicated maps. But the thing I have to say about that is you don't have to play these maps in that complicated fashion. You can hop on these maps and play them casually and still enjoy them. It's possible. You don't have to do the Easter eggs, you know, that's the thing. Like the Rise and Drop, you don't have to do the Easter eggs to get what you want. I understand a map like Shadows of Evil, it might be a little more complicated just to get Pack-a-Punch, but that's just one map. You know, you gotta experience the whole game. So I can see someone who doesn't like getting DLC, they might not enjoy it because you only have like 1 or 2 maps, but the DLC is great, man. This game as a whole, it's incredible. So that's Zombies. Let's move on to the final verdict. So looking at the game as a whole now, what is the score? Well, the score is 90 out of 100 when we add everything up, which is of course 90%, which is the second best score we've given a Call of Duty thus far. The best one thus far has been Black Ops 2, which was a 93%. I mean, if you watch my ranking of every COD, you know the order, regardless of what I think, you know, each Call of Duty game should go. But basing these scores off of those rankings that we just came up with for campaign, multiplayer, and zombies gives me a good idea as to where I was able to put it in that list. So that's kind of what the list is based off of mainly, and that's kind of what this whole entire series is about. So that's a really good score. I think if campaign was maybe a little bit better, if they took more time on it, maybe made it a little bit better quality, maybe had it connect back to the original series a little bit better, maybe got some more interesting like characters, then it could have been a lot better, and this game as a whole could have been the best one of all time. But unfortunately, it was not able to achieve that because of obvious reasons. Multiplayer, a couple things could have been changed around. Maybe if the microtransactions weren't as shitty, the game would be possibly even perfect. And zombies, maybe if they didn't have the same gumball system, or maybe if they didn't have maybe if they did add more perks throughout the season, it could have been perfect. There's a lot of things that could have made this better. We have never gotten a perfect Call of Duty. I don't think we ever will. It's very hard to achieve perfection, but this is one of the closest Call of Duty has ever gotten to perfection. This and Black Ops 2, in my honest opinion. So let me know what you guys think about Black Ops 3 in the comment section below. Up next is, of course, Infinite Warfare. I cannot wait to do Infinite Warfare because that is the most underrated COD of all time, in my opinion. I'm going to have a lot of fun talking about that one with campaign, multiplayer, and zombies. It's a lot to talk about. Probably going to be the longest one just because I will rant for hours about Infinite Warfare if I have to, just because of how underrated I think it is. And then we'll move on to World War II, Black Ops 4, and then of course Modern Warfare. And hopefully by the time we're done with these retrospective reviews, we will be just in time for the newest game, which of course will be Black Ops 5 or whatever the hell they decide to call the next Call of Duty, which I'm hoping will just tear every other game to pieces by how amazing it'll be. Hopefully, crossing my fingers. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Peace out.